a man that was ever done. It's almost as big as going to the moon. And that was a survey of the Louisiana Purchase. You can't imagine how big a job that was until you get all the maps laid out and you look at how big it was and see the miracle that they performed with old surveying instruments that they had at that time. First, I'll cover a little of my family history in surveying. We traced it back. The first record we found was around 1025 AD. There's a little church in England. The header over the door is chiseled out 1025 AD. That's what it was built. The town around it was laid out shortly after that by my family. I'm very proud of that fact. It touches me. I love history. I've studied history. I've majored in history. I've been to 4 different universities, and I've had on-the-ground experience. That's how it started. I was 8 years old. And if I get emotional, just bear with me. I used to hold on to my dad's hip pocket so I could keep up with him as he trailed off through the woods. And I learned the basics. I was running an instrument, transit, at the age of 11. You had to saw the feet off the tripod, make it short enough. I was running an instrument. And I was managing a crew at the age of 15. And one of the proudest days of my life was when I took the test at Little Rock and passed it and got my license to be a professional land surveyor. And like I say, I love history, I've been intrigued by it all my life, I've studied it. And one of the things that I got into, I studied into common law, constitutional law, done a lot of research in Magna Carta, things like that, so I could understand where we came from, how we arrived where we are, the freedoms that were granted, the liberties. And I had more freedom and liberty in my 50 years of surveying than most people ever can dream about. I roamed these beautiful mountains. I surveyed in 5 states. I worked in what we call Mets and Bounds, and we are in the public land system, and that goes back to the Louisiana Purchase. Thomas Jefferson bought that from Napoleon, and I think it's about 15 million acres total. And then he commissioned 2 guys, 2 surveyors, to set up a system to subdivide this thing. And to undertake that, it's amazing. If you're ever over in the southeastern corner of Arkansas, little town over there, there's a national monument there to that, and it's the beginning point of the Louisiana Purchase Survey. And there's a stone there, it's as big as 2 of these chairs, and it's just a boardwalk out there, and that's all you'll see is the stone. But just look around. It's right out in the middle of a swamp, anywhere from knee-deep to neck-deep. That's where these guys started. That's where it all began, with the baseline and the principal meridian going north. The baseline is Baseline Road down to Little Rock. Everything goes south of there, north of there. The principal meridian went east of the Mississippi River and went west all the way through the Louisiana Purchase. And just think about those guys out there. They were out there for 3 weeks observing constellations, calculating. You should have seen the calculations, all done by hand. And they used big tablets, and there was a pile of papers that deep, over and over and over, calculating. Someone would check it, then compile right, they would make new observations, calculate calculate for days, putting all this together. Finally, they decided we have a meeting. We're gonna start. And, when the new satellites came in, modern equipment and all that, they checked against their survey for accuracy. And they were off a quarter of a chain, north and south, and one chain east and west.
Wow.
That is miraculous. That's against this new satellite system we got. So these guys knew what they were doing. They were professional, they were very good at it, and they were determined to do it the best they could. So they took off. One crew went to the northwest, more crews to the northeast, southeast, southwest, and they started laying this out into sections, 640 acres. And they would set the quarter section corners and the section corners. And they compiled all this together, and they would do it a township at a time. And because of the convergence, every 4 townships, or every 24 miles, they would have to offset to the east and start over again, because what they were doing, magnetic converges against the grid, and it closes up, so you're losing your width. Every 24 miles is pretty substantial. So they would go to that township line, and then they would offset over to get a true mile and begin again. So it staggers as you go up. And they ran this thing all the way to the Canadian border. And they went all the way west to, I think it's about the west line of Utah, Nevada, over in there, against the Rockies. And then they went south to the border of the nations in Louisiana. And to put all this together, it's hard to describe what they went through to do this. Imagine being in the plains of Kansas in the dead of wintertime. You're living out there. You're fighting the elements, and a lot of times they had to fight the Native Americans, because they were in the frontier. These were true frontiermen. They were tough, they were honest. If they found out they weren't honest, they lied, they kicked them off and sent them home. If they got drunk, they kicked them off and sent them home. You can't have a drunk crew out there and get that kind of accuracy. So it was pretty disciplined. And usually they had a squad of military men with them as guards. And I've wished many, many times that I could have been with them. I do, really. I would love to have been involved in that. And I guess it's because of my curiosity from the time I was young. I've been an explorer. I wanted to see everything out there. And if there was a bluff, an overhang, you know, I had to go look at it. Cave, I had to crawl in. And I have found in my years things out there that apply to history. Tells me one thing: the history that we were taught in the books, it's not right. There's a lot more to the story. I found pictographs, found carvings and caves. Anybody ever heard of the Knights of the Golden Circle? At the end of the Civil War, there was some of the rebels, they formed little groups and broke up and went their separate ways. And there was one group that came into this area, and they had a system set up. I noticed on the wall back there a circle, stuff in it. And they had maps, and they had symbols that they carved in tree bark that only they knew. And it was symbols that pointed to another symbol. And you don't see it on the ground. But if you tie it all together with a survey, it makes a map. Well, I found out about this, and I got to looking at some of their symbols they use. I found these on trees, right around here. Didn't know what they were at the time, didn't think much about it. I thought somebody was out there, took their pocket knife and made a symbol. No, it's part of the Knights of the Golden Circle. Now, I can't remember where I seen the thing. I'd like to go back and find them, just so I can say, well, I found them, you know, this is where it is. And many, many things like that. I've been blessed, really. I've encountered wildlife that most people never get to see. I've been within 10 feet of a bear, closer than I wanted to be, but nonetheless, everything turned out really well. I've been within inches of rattlesnakes 6 times. Only one of them got me. No finger. I was in his territory, he wasn't in mine. And so I'll give him a pass on it. But it's just things like this, things you remember, the experiences that you have being involved in something for half a century of your life. And there's days when it's 100 degrees or it's 20 below zero, you hate it. I thought, get out of this one, I'm quitting, I'm not gonna do it anymore. Next morning, you're up at 4:30, you're right back at it. It's just something, it gets in your blood. And I know, yes, sir.
What did you do about the chiggers?
Chiggers? Scratch. You know, I had a fella ask me that one time, we was out in the field, and he come up to us, he said, these chiggers are terrible. What do you do for them? I looked at him and I said, scratch. He just looked and shook his head and walked off. What else you gonna tell him? You know, it's part of nature. And I always enjoyed being out there. I have walked and placed my hands on monuments in the field that I found, and I know from the notes that I had, my great-grandfather had laid his hand in the same place.
Wow.
Not many people get to do that. And I've walked in the footsteps of my grandfather. I found his markings, what he had a certain way he blazed a tree. I found his blazes. And of course, I followed my dad around, and I still see things today that he was involved in putting in the ground. I found boat arc trees that were cut off, and they put a boat arc post in on a section corner. A boat arc will take a big grow. Grew up, and over, went into the ground, sprouted, came back up, made a full tree. The old post that the original surveyor had set was still there. It's almost 200 years old. It's just things like that. It gives you a pride, a sense of pride that you have followed in the footsteps of such great people that undertook such a great undertaking to lay this country out, the Louisiana Purchase, in a subdivision, biggest subdivision ever made, created in the whole world. Became a simultaneous conveyance. When they filed that plat, the Surveyor General of the United States, simultaneous conveyance. It was ready to give to the soldiers that had fought the Revolutionary War, and then it was ready for land rush in Oklahoma. People got it, they homesteaded it, they got 160 acres, and that's the way it came to be. It all happened at one time. There could be no excess and no shortage, because it was all done at once, and it was to prevent disputes is what it was for. There could be no man's land. I've heard people say, well, I found some no man's land looking on a tax map. I say, no, it's not no man's land, it's the people's land, and it's included in public land survey. Just because it's not on a tax map doesn't make it no man's land, because that was the purpose of it, was to prevent things like that being too much or too little, this overlapping that, which causes disputes and sometimes gunplay back then, still does today, but that was the purpose of it. To lay it out where everybody was treated fairly. And to me, it's a great honor to be involved in this process. It's overwhelming. It's just hard to describe the feeling you get to be involved in something, to me, that is that great. It's no easy task. You don't have a bunch of people running around out there that are just out of the barn or in the field. They know what they're doing. They've studied hard. They paid the price, and they take pride in it. And I always told people, you working for so-and-so or you working for so-and-so? And I always told them, no, I'm working for the land to preserve the integrity of that great plan that was put into place. Keep it going. And it's just been a pleasure. It's been a long ride. Sometimes it's a hard ride, but it was fun. Wouldn't have missed it. I miss it today. And the only reason I'm not in it was a little bitty critter. And you get a lot of them. I got one, got the wrong one. They give me 2 kinds of tick fever together, and that took it out right there. And I'm done. My knees are no good anymore. My joints hurt still. I just can't get out there and do it anymore. If I could, I would. My great-grandfather was 88 years and 10 months old, and he was still out in the field surveying. And if you saw him, he had on a 3-piece suit and a bowler hat. That was his field dress. And he stayed at it a long time. My grandpa done it till the day he died. He was close to 80, I think. And Dad worked 17th, went to the hospital on the 18th, passed away the 19th. And if I was able to get out there and still do it, I guess they'd find me out in the field somewhere. And that's my time to go. That's where I'd rather be. It's on the mountain, out here in town. And I hope I haven't bored you to death. I hope I helped you to understand. Yes, ma'am.
What kin are you to Warren?
That's my dad.
He was your dad. Now, wasn't he a substitute mail carrier or something?
Yes, he was.
Okay, my dad knew him very well.
Everybody knew Warren Goforth.
Yes, yes, they sure
If
did.
they didn't, just give them about 10 minutes and they would. He was just that way. He never met a stranger.
Yes.
And he enjoyed life and he loved surveying about as much as anybody I ever met. And I guess that's what he instilled in me. Yes, sir.
What was the Bidwell's first name for county surveyor?
The surveyor Bidwell.
Bidwell, B-I-D-W-E-L, Bidwell.
Bidwell.
Bidwell, let's see, what was he?
I want to say Calvin.
It's been so long since I've dug into the records, I can't remember.
Yeah. He was county surveyor, what, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, somewhere around in there.
Probably around in the 40s.
Yeah. I carried chain for him one time. That was enough for me. In the 50s.
His name will come to me by the time I leave.
Yes, sir.
It usually does. And Dad came home after the war, and he went into schooling on the GI Bill. He went to a short course of engineering, and then he worked on the Bull Shoulders project over here. And out of that, he went to work with Vance Smith, county surveyor.
That's who I'm trying to think of. Vance Smith.
Vance learned under,
There was a Bidwell prior to him, though,
yeah.
wasn't there? Yeah.
And, he was in there probably up through the war, and then Vance was his deputy.
Yeah, okay.
And so when Dad came back, he became Vance's deputy surveyor. And
A lot of water.
that original subdivision you said that was completed all at once, what period of time did it take for them to get that done?
They started that in 1811, and they finished it up in 1853.
So quite a while.
It took a while. And my great-grandfather came from North Carolina, and he landed up here in 1854. And just a few years later, the town of Shawnee in Marion County was flooded out so many times, they decided to move it. So he laid out another place, and they moved the town up there, and it's now Yellville.
Wasn't Major Wolf charged by President Jefferson to do some surveying here? Wasn't that why he came?
Yeah, he was. See, the Cherokee had west of the White River from Norfork, and all the way down to the Little Red, that was theirs. And that stone was still sitting on
That
top
would
of
have been
Mackey
an
Mountain.
1817 treaty, I think, that set that up.
That stone is still sitting on top of Mackey Mountain. There's a stone up there, and that's the line where it comes. They ran the nations, not cardinal directions. They were basically laid out at 45 degree angles. And so when they did the public land survey, they would run on their meridians and stuff and baselines until they hit the nation. And where they hit it, they stopped, because this was already contained, they couldn't. And so we had to deal with that too. And,
When the western states beyond the Rockies and beyond came to be surveyed, was that just tagged on to the early survey and worked out from there?
I think most of that's just immense and bounds. It's a sequential thing. First this track, and then that track, and then that track. You'll find that over in Kentucky and over in there. I did some surveying around Louisville, Kentucky, and it was all that way. And it's hard to define where something is, because a lot of times they begin at a point 5.6 miles from the intersection of such and such road, and town branch at a corner of so-and-so field. Sometimes it takes a long time to find the corner of so-and-so's field.
Legal description on the property that I have, the fellow said that it was the most antique legal description, started to notch down by the spring and go over to the water fade.
The best one I ever heard, I think, Roy Danhuser. No, it wasn't Roy Danhuser, it's the older lawyer, Pendergrass. He was involved in a land case one time. And he had the papers there, you know. He was thumbing through there, and he was going through looking, and he stopped, and what kind of a description, that beginning at the red mule standing in the pasture. You'd be surprised what you find in somebody.
You mentioned a stone on Mackey Mountain. Does it have a metal marker?
I'm not sure now if it does or not. It had markings on it, and I don't recall exactly what they were, but I remember it was, sorry about that, I forgot to turn this thing off.
You just wasn't alive.
I intended to turn it off before I came in, but I got it. But, yes, Mary Ann.
I remember seeing a survey one time that Warren did, and he had written on it SWAG. And you know what he told me that stood for?
Yep.
Okay, is that true or was that a joke?
No, it's kind of a joke we have. I won't say what it
I'll say it, I'm not shy. SWAG, he told me that stood for Scientific Wild Ass Guess.
is. There was a few that made a few of those. I tried not to, but I've seen some that did, then we had to go back and clean up the mess, but anyway.
How was Baseline Road in Little Rock determined to be the baseline? That just,
If you go west from the beginning mark, it goes right down Baseline Road. Every mile, or every half mile, you put a quarter section, quarter section, quarter section, section point. That's Baseline Road. From there, they went north.
interesting.
But how is it determined that that was gonna be baseline?
Well, that was the original baseline off of the beginning monument.
From where they
or the
started.
survey. They set the monument beginning point, and then they went east, west, north, south. That's the principal meridian, the baseline.
Did they put that stone there? Or, I thought I read once that they actually started from a tree, a big tree.
They had a stone there, and over time, it got knocked out. And the society down there, Historical Society, joined with the surveyors, the Society of Professional Surveyors. They've gone back and through some observations and notes, they have reset another stone.
Yeah.
And it's all engraved, got a marker on it.
What companies are still in business in this area doing surveying?
Pardon?
Are there companies in Mountain Home that still do surveying?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And is your
Slater,
business one?
Slater Surveying, Consolidated, and on College, those board surveyors. Tom Alexander, he's manager. And I was acquainted with all of the elder, Charles Slater. I worked with him, and he taught me a lot of things. And L.C. Salmon.
And do they do it all by GPS now?
Not all of it. You can do a lot of it, but starting the spring of the year, the leaves come out, and you get a canopy overhead, it can throw you off. We have a lot better system now. I remember when we only had 8 satellites up there. You had a small window in the morning, one in the evening, and if you missed that, well, you just waited till the next day. And now we've got GLONASS and WAS and I think probably 128 or so satellites. So we got coverage pretty much all the time now. And so it's pretty accurate. The last road job I did, we were second grade with it. Quarter inch satellite. So it's a lot easier now than when I used to do it. Used to, you cut your way through and hope you got to the other side.
About a year ago around here, they started painting on some highways or roads. Do you know anything about that? They were painting things that were symbols that supposedly the satellites could pick up?
Yeah, they do that, on your highway projects. They put the X's and the intersections, and they shoot it with satellites, and then they run LiDAR, and they scale from that. That LiDAR is an amazing thing. I never got to use it because I got out before they really started with it. They can fly a place in a plane and shoot millions of beams, cuts through the canopy, and actually contours the ground. You pick up every contour underneath the canopy. They can scan bridges with it, and it shows the bolts, rivets, everything, and puts a three-dimensional coordinate on that exact point, and it'll have a billion points in a bridge. When you put it on the software, you put that bridge up there, you can turn it, roll it, swap in with it. And it's all true to scale. I mean, it's amazing.
Insurance company measured my roof, my satellite. How many squares of roofing was on the building? They did it by the satellite.
Yeah, they can do that.
Really?
Yeah.
That was an SWA.
They can do amazing things. They can tell you how much heat you're losing in the wintertime. it's amazing what they can do with it. They can read your newspaper. People sit out in the yard, they can tell what you're reading. People say, no, they can't either. I've seen it done. Guy that I worked with, his son was in, let's just say one of the organizations. And he's in that department. And I asked him one morning, I said, Joe, how accurate is the satellite? He said, I'll show you. I took a legal pad, magic marker, and I wrote a name on that. So go over and stand by that window. He called his son on the phone, I'm listening, and he said, turn around and look at mountain view out of the east. Turned one up here, one over there in the east, turned in, looked in the window, and I stand there holding this thing. He told me what the name was, I wrote on the paper.
Wow, wow, that's scary.
The letters were about this high. It's quite a system. If it ever falls in the wrong hand, we're in trouble, I guess.
Any big
We're
mysteries or
probably
stories or anything special about surveying your mountain home? Anything?
I remember when, if you were on the square, east side, Dooley's store was there. You could stand and look at the front door and out the back. And out back was an old lot. Nothing. And I've seen it grow from that to what it is today, and been involved in that surveying. I helped survey the bypass.
What about your great-grandpa? I think you told me he had something to do with the county borders.
Yeah, my great-grandpa, he did the east side of the county. He left here, he got caught up in the Civil War. His instrument that he had, he put it in the oil skins. He buried it under a lead rock. It stayed there through the Civil War. When he come back, he went and dug it out. And he left for a little while and went to Texas. They were starving around here. He stayed about 3 or 4 years down there. And he heard that things were getting better up here, so he came back and settled out here. The Morgan Farm, about 1,300 acres out here, he owned that at one time. It's in the old I don't remember, one of the ownership maps of Baxter County, old one. He sat in the basement down there at Dabs, but it showed he owned that at one time.
You were talking about the lot behind Dooley's store. Do you remember that being where an old jail was? Was there, do you remember any stocks or anything still being there?
No, not
I've
really.
heard people ask about it. They'd heard that's where the old jail used to be.
If I sat down and thought about it for a little while, I know the old jail that I remember was in the top of the courthouse.
Right, I do too.
And, but I remember around the square, he'd be up there, and the guys was in the jail incarcerated, they'd be yelling out to people,
Oh,
can you
yeah.
bring me
Right.
some cigarettes, or can you bring me a soda pop? But I've been involved in a lot of the development of Baxter County and this area, and it's truly been a blessing. I've got to explore places a lot of people have never seen. It's been great.
Well, we appreciate the work you and your family have done this way.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm proud to have been a part of it, and I hope it's been entertaining, informative. I've got a lot of things to display, but I didn't have time to put it together. It takes about 2 hours to set it up, 2 hours to tear it down. My schedule being what it is, I don't have time to gather it all up. I've still got my great-grandfather's instrument, I've got my grandfather's instrument, I got my father's instrument, old maps, notes, lot of things that apply to what we were involved in and how it was done, and maps and things. And sometime at a later date, when I'm not tied up, I'll get with David, I'll bring it, I'll set it all up, let you look at it. And I think once you do, you'll better appreciate and better understand what was involved in putting this great thing together. And every time you get a chance, go online, pull it up, and read up on the public land system, survey of the Louisiana Purchase. And what I've told you tonight is only a small percentage of the historic nature and facts and all about this and what was involved in it, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And like I say, sometime when I have time, I'll bring all that in, then we'll go over that. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.